a year in as a counsellor. How has your year been?
It's been really exciting actually. It's been very hard work. I've got really stuck into lots of meetings, had an enormous amount of casework, which has been really thrilling actually to be able to really help people. That's why I'm here, that's why I got elected, and I hope that I've really served my constituents and more importantly my community and my residents of Thurrock in a really good way.
A lot of councillors, when they do become in their first year or first couple of years, just sort of a fairly quiet, low-key, get to know the ropes, but you haven't really had the opportunity to do that. You've had to be thrust into quite a lot of things, haven't you?
To say it's been a difficult time, obviously, with all the austerity measures that are coming through, would be a real understatement. I mean, we're thrown in at the deep end as new councillors. All of a sudden, my group's administration, which, to be honest, we probably weren't quite expecting, being the fact we were hung council. So basically, Labour and Tories are pretty even pegging with regards to councillors. It has been, difficult times. I mean, yourself, when I've been in some of the health and wellbeing OU scrutiny committees and the other scrutiny committees, I felt really quite emotional about some of the cuts that we've had to consider. Not ones we've specifically made, but ones that we had to consider, ones that we had to put on the table, that we had to have fully scrutinised. We had to go out there and we had to speak to residents on. We've had the residents come in and feed back to us in many of the meetings. We've gone out there with the Let's Talk budget and we've had real input, and that's been key in helping us to decide what were the best parts and what were the best savings that we could make in the council for our budget.
Your main concerns regarding the amendments that the Tories have made?
I think it was actually quite disgusting. I felt quite aggrieved as somebody in the community that has worked incredibly hard as a councillor, as I have lots of councillors, to go out there and listen to our community, to what they wanted and what they said. We've had a whole scrutiny process. They've been really able to feed back in. And for the Tories to put those amendments forward and to be voted in by the independent councillors, where was the scrutiny? Where were people able to say what they felt about those savings? None of the stakeholders have been consulted. People that run Grays Beach weren't consulted, nor were the Thames side, nor were volunteers who run the community halls. And the adult college, 3,000 students there a year. None of those were consulted, nor were the staff. And these are budget decisions that were made. Now, once they're made, there is a problem. Those savings have to be found. And that's the problem. And I just think, these are really difficult times. We should be working together. That's the whole point why we're elected. We're elected so that we work together for our residents. Political rubbish aside, where does posture politics stand when we're stuck with £14 million cuts and £4 million cuts this year? We should be working for our residents and our communities. That's why we're here. I'm not interested in rubbish politics. I'm just here to represent the people of the ward that I stand in.
A lot of the conversations have been about, the argument's been about Grays Beach Park, about the Thames side and Thurrock community college. But one that seems to have slipped off the radar is the village halls.
Yeah.
What's your concerns there?
Well, I'm actually a member of a management committee for Allsick Village Hall. I've been involved quite some time, and I've helped get grants, funding and all sorts of stuff to really make it a fantastic resource for our community. Now, these people are all volunteers, have been working for a long number of years with the council to bring a fantastic resource for our communities. Now, if this is, as per the Tories' amendment to the budget, put out to privatisation, where do we stand? Are the costs for rent of the committees, of the village halls going to increase? Where do the management committees stand? Where do these valuable volunteers in our community have a place to help run these fantastic...
What's the feeling regarding academies?
Yeah.
Your colleague Diana Hale, some would say, was honest enough to say she feels that grammar schools by stealth. Is that the Labour Party or the Labour group line?
I can't speak for the Labour Party national line. I think there are some real serious concerns about academy schools locally. One, obviously, nationally, the issues around admissions, but I think locally we have to look at what our secondaries and our special schools may well do within the next 18 months or so. The general thinking is that they're probably going to all become academies or moving towards academy status. Now, there's two key areas of that I personally have a concern around. One is the top 10% slicing. That funding is retained by the local authority as a community or trust school currently. If they become an academy school, that funding goes straight to the academy school. Now there's vital services within that top 10% slicing, such as special educational needs, such as the PRU, and many, many other real fantastic support services that the local authority have in place. Now, what happens to those remaining community schools in Thurrock, all our primaries, all our infants and juniors and our preschools, you know, because that pot's going to be much, much lessened. Now, unless we all look to work collectively together, we're going to lose some of those vital services, and not just for those schools that are left, but also the academy schools. If they're going to use that top 10% slice to prop up their budgets, which I'm guessing a lot will have to do, or a lot will do, what about those vital resources and support groups for their pupils and their parents? I mean, we also support parents. The other issue is the 2-pin of staff, which essentially means when staff move on to another school, they carry all their rights, their pension rights and their levels with them. At an academy school, that doesn't happen. Their rights stop, and that's it. And I think we really need to look at what the government are going to do around that, because that's a key area of concern as well for our staff.
But taking us back to where we... But aren't you being too harsh on the Tories? They're all they're saying is that it's a possible opportunity for a trust to come on board. It's a fair idea, isn't it?
I don't actually think it is. I really don't think it is. Let me just read from the agenda for the meeting, full council meeting last week, where we had the draft of the transcript from what Gary Haig had said. Okay, it's about packaging up leisure services, and he states, "We believe there's a real opportunity to package up leisure-related facilities at Thameside Theatre, the museum, Grays Beach, community halls, and outsource these to a specialist organisation or trust." Now, that doesn't state leisure facilities such as, or like, it clearly states Grays Beach, community halls, etc. Now, you know, the problem with either putting them to a trust or a private organisation is we've got Corey, who funded something like 1.3 million of that development down at Grays Beach, and they are really, really unhappy. And, you know, we need to maintain that, otherwise they're going to withdraw funding, and what cost to taxpayers? We'll have to pay that back. The other side of it is, if it's put to a trust, any of these issues, especially Grays Beach, we're going to have to pay to go there. I've got 4 children. You know, like most families, I struggle in Thurrock, and I often take my children there in the summer instead of taking a holiday. You know, how much is it going to cost me and my children to get in there every time I want to go, and all the families of Thurrock? And I just do not think that's right at all.
But you don't know that for sure. A company could come on board and actually, you know...
Oh, come on, Michael. Look, you only have to look at Impulse Leisure. You know, the council was still subbing them. They're still paying grant funding to them. We're trying to reduce that. But even though we know it's really difficult, how are they going to make a profit out of Grays Beach? There's just no way anybody can even cover their running costs for that. They're going to make a loss. And to recover that as a trust, they're going to have to charge.
And in conclusion, as we started at the beginning, you've been now a councillor for a year. What's your advice to other people who may want to become a councillor?
My advice is listen to what everybody are telling you with regards to your community. Go and speak to people. Go and speak to your schools. Go to the forums. Actually get the real vibe about what's going on in your community, and I think that's the most important thing. If you don't listen, then you just don't know, and there's absolutely, you know, no way you should just follow a political line or whatever. You know, I'm not in it for politics. Hopefully most of us aren't as councillors. It's all about listening to your community and doing what they need you to do.